Committee. This is a decision making on the bills that were heard on Friday, February 5th. No public testimony is allowed as this decision making hearing only. First up, House Bill 366. Recommendation at this time is to defer the measure indefinitely. Next up, House Bill 376. What we want to do is we want to continue to work on this. We believe, as SPO said, there's merit to this. It's just in the wrong area. So we're going to amend it to section 103D-302, which is the sealed bid section, covered sealed bids, to allow for the award in certain cases to second lowest bidder, a defective date. And in the committee report, we know that we need to work with SPO and the chair of the next committee, if they choose to hear this bill, on hashing out how this would apply insofar as 103D 302 is concerned. Numerous questions, comments? If not, Vice Chair, 376, House Draft 1.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation to pass HB 376 with amendments, Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Representative Cullen?
Aye.
Representative Eli is excused. Representative Uchiyama is excused. Representative Mizuno? Representative Woodson?
Aye.
Representative Yamashita?
Aye.
Representative Ward?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. This measure is adopted.
Okay, next one, House Bill 531. We recognize there's some concerns with this and it's a work in progress. However, we want to move this forward as a House Draft 1. We want to move this, what we want to do is not tie it directly to the lease of ag lands. However, we think that if you have produce operations going on within state lands for ag purposes, it should be a preference. And so we're going to move it to the preference section of 103D-906. We're taking out all the provisions in there so far as leasing goes in the state lands. And we're going to ask the Committee on Agriculture, whose purview that is, to look at that issue on either this measure or another measure separately. The effective date of 2112 and amendments, tech amendments were clarity, style, and conformity. Members, questions, comments? If not, Vice Chair, 531, House Draft 1.
Recommendation of the Chair to pass HB 531 with amendments, Chair and Vice Chair voting aye, noting excused. Representative Eli and Ichiyama. Do we have any no or reservations on this measure? And members, thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. House Bill 645, we're going to defer this one indefinitely. House Bill 660, while we appreciate the fact this is an issue, the way the bill goes about it may be unconstitutional. We're going to defer this and hopefully work with the author on perhaps a resolution or with a Senate vehicle and talk to the Senate insofar as how they're looking at this issue.
Good decision, Chair.
Okay, next up, we have House Bill 844. Past performance. We're going to go ahead and we are going to defer this only because DAG says it is already being allowed. But we're going to follow up with that insofar as how its implementation is actually working in real life. And of course, we have next session to look at it as well. House Bill 849. We recognize there's a lot of concerns about duplication. However, we think that it's something that should be examined further. So therefore, we're going to, just to keep the conversation going, we're going to add an effective date of 2112 and add a sunset of 5 years with a report to the ledge. And of course, tech amendments for the usual reasons. Members, questions, comments? Appreciate your support. Vice Chair 849, House Draft 1.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation to pass HB 849 with amendments, Chair and Vice Chair voting aye, noting Eli and Ichiyama representatives excused. Are there any no's or reservations for members? Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Okay, next up, 878. While we appreciate the governor's intent, it's so broad, it would make all sorts of things would have to be produced in Hawaii, like steel, which we don't do. So unfortunately, I think this is something perhaps we could approach through a resolution working with the governor's office. So we're going to defer this one indefinitely. Now for House Bill 424, my vice chair has been working on this bill, so I'm going to turn it over to her for the recommendations on this.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank the State Procurement Office and the Energy Office working together to offer amendments for this bill. The timing is perfect because the next procurement contract for state employees to rent vehicles is coming up in August of 2022. In 2019, pre-pandemic, state employees rented over 19,000 vehicles in 1 year, averaging a day and a half rental at a rate of $60 a day, making for a minimum cost of $1.7 million. So these changes will signal to the car industry, the rental car industry, that they can invest in EVs and that they will be rented with confidence. To summarize the changes, we're going to defect the date to July 1, 2050. We're removing the reference of 103D of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, inserting language to amend HRS 196-9C, which is a section related to energy efficiency and environmental standards for state facilities regarding fuel and motor vehicles. And we're inserting language to amend HRS 196-2 to add relevant definitions. So with that, members, any questions?
Chair.
Yep.
Vice
Thank you.
Chair. I think the bill is well intended. The timing is probably not very good, being that it increases probably the cost of government, in that I'm not sure if even the bill can meet the market price. In my cursory research, generally a bill or a rental would be about $50 per day. And from what I researched in terms of electric cars, they're about double that, about $100 a day. I think the bill says if it's not 25% more, is that correct, Representative? If the electric car doesn't cost more than 25%, or is it 50%? What does it say? It's okay.
I don't know that that's
There
worked
was
out
an
yet.
exception in the bill that you can't go over a certain price. But in effect, if it's $100 a day for an electric car, $50 a day for another car, and you said 19,000 rentals have been used, this is going to increase the cost of government, of which at a pandemic time is probably not the best thing to do. So for those reasons, with all due respect, I'm going to pass because of the timing of it and say no.
No vote. Thank
Yes.
you. Any further discussion? Okay. Recommendation to pass HB 424 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye, noting excused absence of Representatives Eli and Ichiyama and Representative Ward voting no. Do we have any other no's or reservations on this measure? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up, House Bill 1325. What we're going to do with this one, members, is we're going to take the amendments that were offered by DAGS to clear up the gap issue and some of the other things that could actually limit the state's ability to recover. Tech amendments for clarity, substance, style. Defective date of 21/12. Further the conversation. Members, questions or comments? If not, Vice Chair, 1325, House Draft 1.
Recommendation of the Chair to pass HB 1325 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Representatives Eli and Ichiyama excused. Any other no or reservations on this measure? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you so much, members. Finally, House Bill 1355. I want to thank the author who's been working on this bill since we heard it with the stakeholders and working with their office. We have several changes for this measure, which is a conversation in progress, work in progress. We're going to add a liability determination clause relating to the contractors. We're going to go ahead and say that professional services that are published on said list will be on the list for only 5 years. We're going to have DAGS create a 5-member task force to be named by the members to be named by the comptroller, who would then go ahead and submit a report to the legislature. We're taking out all the LRB study and reporting requirements because it's redundant. And then we're going to go ahead and try to explore creating 672E, a new chapter that's based on 672E, which is similar to the design claims conciliation panel that oversees claims to contractors for design professionals. And then, of course, we're going to put a provision in there that there's a liability contingency fund that is sufficient to avoid cost overruns, which, of course, was alluded to before, cost to the state. Defective date of 21/12, tech amendments for clarity and style. And with that, members, questions, comments? If not, appreciate your support on this work in progress. 1355, House Draft 1, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation to pass HB 1355 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair voting aye, noting excused. Representatives Eli and Ichiyama. Do you have any other no or reservations? Thank you, Chair. This measure is adopted.
All right, thank you, members, so much. Appreciate your help and support. Aloha.